Imagine you're standing on the African savanna nearly 2 million years ago. The sun is beating down, your stomach has been empty since yesterday, and somewhere in the distance a flock of vultures suddenly circles the sky. To most modern people, that might seem like something to avoid. But to you, it's hope. Because where vultures gather, there might be a dead animal. And where there's a dead animal, there might be meat. There's just one problem. You haven't discovered cooking yet. There are no campfires, no barbecue grills, no frying pans, no salt, no spices. If you're going to eat this animal, you'll have to eat it exactly as nature left it, raw. So here's the question that has puzzled archaeologists and anthropologists for decades. Did ancient humans really eat raw meat? Or is that just another prehistoric myth? The answer turns out to be far more fascinating than most people imagine. Because understanding how our ancestors ate raw meat may explain why humans evolved bigger brains, smaller teeth, and eventually changed the course of history. For most people today, the idea of eating raw meat sounds dangerous. We immediately think about bacteria, food poisoning, and hospital visits. Modern supermarkets even print cooking instructions on nearly every package of meat, so it's easy to assume ancient humans simply couldn't survive on raw meat. But here's where things get interesting. For most of human evolution, cooking didn't exist. The earliest clear evidence for the regular use of controlled fire appears hundreds of thousands of years after our ancestors had already begun eating meat. That means generations of early humans had little choice. If they wanted meat, they ate it raw. Think about that for a second. Some of the foods that helped build the human body were never cooked at all. But that doesn't mean our ancestors hunted massive animals every day. In fact, the earliest meat eaters were probably opportunists. Imagine walking across an open grassland when you notice vultures circling overhead. You hurry toward the scene and discover that a pride of lions has just finished feeding on a zebra. The lions have left. Hyenas haven't arrived yet. You only have a few minutes. Armed with sharp stone flakes, your group quickly slices away whatever meat remains before larger predators return. This is known as scavenging, and many scientists believe it played a major role in early human diets. Instead of always killing animals themselves, early humans often took advantage of nature's leftovers. It may not sound glamorous, but it was incredibly effective. And here's something surprising. Stone tools changed everything. The oldest known stone tools date back more than 3 million years. They weren't fancy. No polished handles. No razor-sharp steel. Just carefully chipped rocks with edges sharp enough to slice through skin, muscle, and tendons. Those simple tools gave humans access to something many predators couldn't easily reach: bone marrow. Imagine a lion finishing a meal. It tears away the flesh but often leaves behind heavy bones. To most animals, those bones are useless. To humans, they were treasure chests. By smashing them open with stones, our ancestors could reach rich, fatty marrow packed with calories. That fat may have been one of the most valuable foods in the prehistoric world. Because here's the problem. The human brain is incredibly expensive to run. Although it makes up only a small percentage of our body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of our daily energy. That's enormous. Growing bigger brains required more calories, especially calorie-dense foods like meat and fat. Many researchers believe that increasing meat consumption helped fuel the evolution of larger human brains. The answer may surprise you. It wasn't simply the meat itself. It was what the meat represented: reliable energy. Imagine trying to survive entirely on leaves and grass. You'd spend nearly every waking hour chewing, just like gorillas do today. Humans took a different path. By adding meat to their diets, they could spend less time eating and more time exploring, inventing tools, cooperating, and learning. Food changed behavior. Behavior changed evolution. And then something even stranger happened. Our bodies started changing too. Compared with earlier human ancestors, later members of the Homo family developed smaller teeth, lighter jaws, and shorter digestive systems. Why? Because eating meat, and eventually cooked food, reduced the need for enormous chewing muscles and oversized intestines. In other words, our bodies slowly adapted to a completely different menu. But let's go back to the raw meat itself. Wouldn't it make people sick? Sometimes, yes. Raw meat carries parasites and harmful bacteria. But there are important differences between prehistoric life and modern expectations. First, ancient humans usually ate freshly killed animals. Fresh meat is far less dangerous than meat left sitting for days. Second, people quickly learned through experience which animals were safe and which weren't. Knowledge became a survival tool. Generation after generation, parents taught children what to eat, what to avoid, and how to recognize spoiled food. Think about that. Before there were recipe books, there were survival lessons. And those lessons could mean the difference between life and death. Here's where things get really interesting. Evidence suggests that early humans didn't waste much. Once an animal was available, nearly every useful part was consumed. Muscle, organs, fat, bone marrow, even brains. To modern audiences, that may sound unusual. But in a world where every calorie mattered, wasting food made little sense. In fact, some of the most nutritious parts of an animal are the organs. The liver is packed with vitamins. Bone marrow contains healthy fats. The heart provides protein and minerals. Ancient humans weren't picky eaters. They couldn't afford to be. Now imagine explaining that to someone waiting for a chicken nugget meal. Suddenly, prehistoric dining seems a lot less convenient. But here's a mystery archaeologists continue investigating. When did humans stop eating only raw meat? The answer isn't as simple as one person discovering fire. The control of fire probably happened gradually. At first, humans may have collected burning branches from wildfires caused by lightning. Instead of creating fire, they preserved it. Keeping a flame alive became incredibly valuable. Eventually, people learned to cook, and cooking transformed everything. Heat softened meat, destroyed many harmful microorganisms, released more calories, made chewing easier, improved digestion. Some scientists argue that cooking was one of the greatest revolutions in human history. It didn't just change dinner, it changed our biology. Imagine eating a tough raw steak every day. Now imagine eating a slow-cooked roast. Which one requires less effort? Exactly. Cooking allowed humans to extract more energy while spending less time chewing. That extra energy may have helped support our expanding brains. Now things get weird. Scientists have even suggested that cooking changed our daily schedules. Without fire, darkness forced people to rest. With fire, evenings suddenly became useful. Families gathered around glowing flames. Stories were told. Skills were taught. Plans were made. Knowledge spread. The campfire may have become humanity's first classroom. Think about your own life. How many memorable conversations have happened around food? Birthday dinners, family barbecues, camping trips. Those ancient traditions may stretch back hundreds of thousands of years. But none of that would have happened if our ancestors hadn't first survived countless generations eating raw food. That's the remarkable part. The raw meat wasn't the destination. It was a stepping stone, a bridge between a plant-heavy diet and a world transformed by cooking. It helped fuel larger brains, supported growing communities, encouraged tool-making, and ultimately paved the way for one of humanity's greatest discoveries: fire. Perhaps the biggest misconception about prehistoric people is that they were primitive, in the sense of being unintelligent. The archaeological evidence tells a different story. These were careful observers. They understood animal behavior. They recognized migration routes. They crafted remarkably effective stone tools. They shared knowledge across generations. They adapted to constantly changing environments. Raw meat wasn't a sign of ignorance. It was a practical solution to the world they lived in. If fire wasn't available, they used what they had. That's something humans have always done. Whether it's carving stone tools, building spacecraft, or developing artificial intelligence, our greatest strength has never been perfect conditions. It's adaptation. The foods we eat today may look very different from those of our ancestors, but the instinct behind them remains the same. We're always searching for better ways to survive, thrive, and improve our lives. Millions of years ago, that meant picking up a sharp stone and slicing fresh meat from a carcass before predators returned. Today, It might mean ordering dinner with a tap on a smartphone. The tools have changed beyond recognition. The human drive has not. So, did ancient humans eat raw meat? Yes. For hundreds of thousands of years, they almost certainly did. Not because they enjoyed it the way some people enjoy sushi or steak tartare today, but because it was one of the best sources of energy available in a world before cooking. It nourished growing brains, encouraged innovation, and helped shape the species that would eventually master fire, agriculture, cities, and civilization itself. In a strange way, every cooked meal we enjoy today carries a hidden connection to those distant ancestors, tearing into fresh meat on the open savanna. Because before humanity learned to cook food, it first had to learn how to survive without that luxury. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson hidden inside this ancient mystery. Human evolution wasn't powered by comfort. It was powered by adaptation. Every challenge forced our ancestors to become a little smarter, a little more resourceful, and a little more human. The raw meat was never the end of the story. It was simply one more step on the long journey that eventually brought us to the dinner table we gather around today.